Imagine what it would feel like to lose everything. Your job, your home, your family, your dignity. This has happened to thousands of the men, women, veterans, and young adults we serve at Working Wardrobes. What do we do to help? We provide career development services, life skills workshops, job skills training. We provide the perfect interview outfit, and we get clients placed in jobs. Call Working Wardrobes, 714-210-2460. Donate, volunteer, invest, hire.
Welcome to Women Kicking Glass, the only radio show on OC Talk Radio dedicated to empowering women to be the best leaders they can be in any endeavor they choose. Patty Grimm is our host and interviews top women in a variety of fields to help women grow, learn, and lean in together. Patty has over 25 years of experience in primarily male-dominated fields in senior-level management positions. Patty is the owner of Advantage Training Limited, an organizational leadership team training company. She recently released her new book for women called Quiet Women Never Changed History. Be strong, stand out, and stand up. With the subtitle, Let's Go Kick Some Glass.
And that's exactly what we're going to do today. We got some real glass kickers in the house today. Welcome, Patty.
Hey, thanks, Paul. We got a great guest today. I'm really excited to have her here. She's just an amazing woman, amazing businesswoman, amazing person, and also a good friend. We were having dinner last night, our husbands and I. We had a wonderful dinner last night, so it was a lot of fun. So I want to introduce you. I'm going to read a little bit of her bio and also do a personal testimonial for how wonderful she is. Andrea Sittig-Rolf, I always mess that up a little bit. She is Chief BlitzMaster, President, and founder of a company called BlitzMasters, which helps companies inspire organizations to change, maximize sales, and increase bottom line results. I mean, she really delivers. Her business savvy, and she brings out the best in helping salespeople to bring out their best and inspire them. She's a successful entrepreneur, author, frequent media guest, sales trainer, and is in high demand as a workshop speaker and leader. I actually, when I worked for Microsoft, I ran our Worldwide Partner Conference, which is a big, huge conference with 15 to 18,000 people, and I met Andrea and hired her to lead one of our breakout sessions, and her sessions had standing ovation, standing room only, does an amazing job, and she has this fun title called Chocolate is Not for Breakfast Anymore, right, if I remember right.
Yes.
She's also written 4 books. She's been a featured author in the Huffington Post. She's been on a number of radio and TV shows, and she has a great channel you can watch on YouTube. It's a partnership with Microsoft and HP called Coffee Coaching. So you can get some tips from her directly. She founded this company called BlitzMasters, and it's a one-of-a-kind sales program where you actually walk out with tangible business results. At the end of the session, she'll be able to tell you how many, or she and her company, how many sales leads people got and the dollar value of those. So it has a real bottom line impact to that. So she's a wonderful person. And before starting BlitzMasters, she was in a variety of sales positions with a number of different organizations. So thanks, Andrea, for joining me today.
You bet. Thanks for having me.
Great. So you started out your career in sales.
Yes.
Talk a little bit about your career in sales.
I don't know how far back you want me to go. I was just saying to my husband on the way here, I thought, back when I was a little girl, I was probably 12. I had hamsters, and when they had babies, I would get a phone book and I would call the local pet stores and sell the babies at 12 years old. So there's something in the genes, I guess. Have always done sales, and about I guess it's probably, 25 years ago now, I sold voicemail right out of college. Back in the day when people didn't know what voicemail was.
I was going to say 25 years ago we had voicemail?
Yeah, it was almost 25 years. Yeah, and so when I first started in that job, and I would call and do my cold calling, and the receptionist would answer the phone, and I'd say, I'd like to talk to the, your sales manager or the person in charge of, voicemail. And she's like, what's voicemail? And I would explain it. Well, you leave a message and in a recording. Oh, we don't need that. We use pink slips. So, this is
the little pink slips where you would write out who the call was from.
Who the call was from. Yeah. And so, back then it was a paradigm shift. You had to sort of educate people on why voicemail was better than writing a note. And then in addition to that, you had to then get them to buy your product and not the competition.
Right.
So have always done sales. Then from the voicemail went into phone sales, did some data cabling sales, management. It's just in my blood. I love people.
Yeah.
And so it was just sort of a natural fit.
I think a lot of people, even though I think it's changed a lot, in the old days people used to think about salespeople, and they thought of the typical salesman, like a car salesman with the white belt or the white shoes, or they had a misperception of what sales is. From your perspective, what is sales really?
Well, it's really solving a problem for a company or for a person, or nowadays sort of the way we talk about it is you really want to create a business outcome. And so the idea is when you're having that first conversation with a prospect and you want to get some time with them, you're not talking about your widget that you're selling. You're talking about a problem that they're likely having that you can solve.
Right.
And that's really what it's about. It's about solving problems. And in these programs that we run, these workshops, we find that salespeople are very hesitant to cold call, and a lot of it is, they're afraid of rejection and things like that. And I said, what if you were calling to tell the person they won the lottery? Would you feel strange about that? And well, no, and because they think, oh, but I'm interrupting their day. I'm like, yeah, but you have something valuable to offer. You should be excited. You should say, hey, it's your lucky day. I'm calling you today.
Right.
And you have to kind of change the way you think about it. That you're not interrupting someone's day. That you're providing a valuable service, something that's going to help them. And when you sort of change the way you think about it, then you're more likely to kind of do that behavior that's going to help drive the sales.
So I think if we thought about sales as being trying to help a customer solve a problem, you're trying to alleviate a business pain, and you're trying to help them with your product or solution, and you're educating them,
right,
and providing them a service that's going to help make their life easier.
Right.
So a lot of women, why should a woman go into sales? I mean, what did it teach you, or why would a woman go into sales?
Well, for me, it was all about the money, girlfriend. I mean, I was like, I know that, you could be a doctor, you could be a lawyer, but I'm telling you, there are lots of salespeople that make a whole lot more money than doctors and lawyers, and you don't have to have an advanced degree. You don't even need a college degree. Right. You just need to have, I'd say, a high emotional intelligence. The gift of gab. You got to love people. You also have to be a good listener. But for me, it's just been a fantastic career, something that sort of chose me. I didn't really choose it. I kind of, fell into it. But, just that independence, was very appealing. Yep. Sales is the one career that is as close to having your own business as anything else, because even if you work for another company, you still have your book of business that you're running and that you're responsible for. So there's this autonomy and independence, and the exciting thing of I'm paid based on my effort, and there's and if you're competitive, that brings out the competitive nature too. So lots of reasons to get into sales. Yeah, and I like your approach to that. So, as a woman in sales, like you said, you've been in it a while. What were some of the biggest challenges you had to overcome, and how did you overcome those? Well, one of the biggest challenges I overcame actually didn't have as much to do with being a woman as just getting a little ahead of myself, and I actually went into debt quite a bit one year, and was a salesperson. And found myself, I'd just gotten ahead of myself, found myself in some pretty big debt. And so I went into one of those debt consolidation companies and said, okay, I need a plan to get out of debt. So they put me on a 6-year plan. And I thought, I don't want to take 6 years to pay this off. What else could I do to make this happen sooner? And as a salesperson, what's really cool about that job is if you can sell anything. You can learn any product, any service if you're a good salesperson. And so I thought, well, instead of waiting 6 years to pay this debt off, why don't I just get a better job that pays more? So I did that. I went from being a salesperson to a regional sales manager, and instead of paying off that debt in 6 years, I paid it off in 6 months.
Wow.
And so that's the power, I think, of being in sales and being in control of your income and being able to sort of make that transition, instead of just sitting back and say, oh, woe is me, it's going to take 6 years. I thought, no, I'll get another job and I'll get it paid off sooner.
Yeah, and that's an example of how if you are working for a company in sales, you may not be ready to start your own business, but if you're working for a company in sales, how you can control your own destiny, you can control your finances, you control who you call on when, what you do. You really are in control of your own destiny. So it is kind of like having your own business.
Right. Right. Yeah. That was one of the things I really enjoyed about it. And then it was also a steady paycheck.
Yeah.
So, and benefits, so you had all of that, plus you had the autonomy of what felt like running your own business.
Yeah, so how did you make this leap of leaving that career you were very successful in to starting your own company called BlitzMasters?
So at the time, I was a regional sales manager for a data cabling company, and I would run these Blitz days, and I would get the salespeople on the phone, making calls, setting up appointments, filling the pipeline, and I would get the vendors involved. We'd have prizes, and we'd have a contest, and it would just be this really fun day.
Right.
And I'm not even thinking about how this impacts the bottom line. I just know this is a necessary evil. Salespeople hate it, but they've got to do it. They've got to, fill the pipeline. And I was in Bothell, Washington, and my boss calls from Austin, Texas one day, and he said, "What is going on in the Northwest? Your numbers are off the charts. Like, what's happening?
What are you doing?
What are you doing?" And I said, "I'm running these Blitz days." And so I kind of explained it. And he said, "Well, keep up the good work. I can see the results in the bottom line. This is fantastic." And I hung up the phone and thought, why would I keep up the good work for this guy? This could be a business. I am onto something. And so without much more thought, I picked up the phone and called my fiance at the time, my husband now. So thankfully he married me after the news, because I said, "Guess what? I quit my job today. I'm going to do this Blitz thing full time."
And he said,
"You can't quit your job. We're getting married. We're buying a house. Are you out of your mind?" And I said, "This is a really good idea. Any company that has to set appointments and fill the pipeline needs this training. I can feel it in my bones. This is an awesome idea.
Trust me.
Trust me." So 15 years later, he's semi-retired thanks to BlitzMasters. So he's like, "That was a pretty good idea you had, honey."
So that was your inspiration for starting the company. It was just, why am I doing this for somebody else?
Right.
And I know there are a lot of women out there, a lot of listeners who are working for corporations right now and think they have this idea. And they want to start their own business. They want to have their own independence. What advice would you give to somebody who's kind of in that stage when you just said, "I quit my job, honey"?
Yeah. Well, I think it's great if you're able to sort of prove a concept when you work for someone else.
Right.
That was what I did with the Blitz days. What is it that you do that's unique, that's special? A program, a project, something that could scale.
Right.
So it's great to be able to test it out while you're working for someone else to prove that you're onto something.
Right.
Before you then quit and start your own gig.
Yeah, because I know for me, I've done this twice, right? Mm-hmm. So I was a VP for First Interstate Bank. I was vice president of People and Customer Excellence, a job they created for me to help transform the bank. And when that job was over, and I looked at my executive vice president, and he says, "What job do you want? You can have anyone you want." I said, "None of the above."
Wow.
I said, "I'd really like to. Would you hire me back to do these leadership development courses for the senior leaders and all the leaders within the bank? Would you hire me back if I chose to leave?" He said, "Oh, absolutely."
Wow.
So I gave 6 months notice. I hired my replacement. I trained my replacement.
Wow.
And I left the security of this nice bank and started my own company, Advantage Training, which is what I have now. Mm-hmm. Did it a second time after I left Microsoft after 15 years. I looked around and I looked at the jobs available and said, there's nothing else I want to do. I had done so much, so I refounded the company.
Yeah.
The one advice I would say is I kept the company open the whole time.
Yeah,
even when I was
good.
at Microsoft for 15 years, I paid my corporate taxes every year. I did everything to keep the business open.
That's smart.
Yeah. Good. So, how does BlitzMasters solve a problem for your customers or your clients? Talk about BlitzMasters.
So we solve a couple of problems. One is the, hesitancy of the salespeople to pick up the phone and call someone and set up an appointment and start the sales process. Salespeople are pretty good. Once they have the meeting, they can do the discovery interview. They can follow up. They can even close the business. But the part they struggle with is picking up the phone and calling a complete stranger. And once they understand how to get past the gatekeeper, how to handle objections, how to get voicemail return, once they know all that, it becomes easier, and then they're able to do it. So the problem we solve is that pipeline, getting enough business coming in at the top of the funnel, if you will, to keep sales steady. And, we make it fun. It's a high-energy, fun event. So I always sort of compare this concept of cold calling and what we do. Like BlitzMasters is to cold calling what, I don't know if your mom ever did this for you, but when I was little and I had to take medicine, she would put the pill in a teaspoon and put Hershey's chocolate syrup in
Oh,
the
my
teaspoon.
mom didn't do that.
Yeah, and it was just like, okay, that was a way to, and you do it with animals too. You give them
I do it.
like peanut butter or something, but it was like the way to get them to take
Yeah.
the medicine. And so that's what, at BlitzMasters we do. We create this fun environment so that salespeople will actually want to do this, necessary activity that they don't always enjoy
Right.
of making those calls and filling up the pipeline.
Yeah, and so for people who aren't familiar with sales, a lot of times we talk about a pipeline, and so you think about the fact that you've got a quota,
Right.
your boss or somebody or your company, you've got a number you need to achieve, whatever number that is, and you need to get more opportunities, more potential clients in the top of the sales funnel,
Right.
your pipeline, so that something comes out at the end.
Right.
And sometimes it's 2 times your amount or 3 times your amount from that perspective, but you're helping really fill that funnel.
Yes.
And how do you make it fun?
Oh, we've got.
They're a blast. I mean, I've been to her brother Carl, one of his sessions, and they're
Yeah.
just a blast.
Yeah, so we have party horns, we have candy, we've got some fun videos. And the BlitzMasters that I have are all really entertaining, fun people, great coaches. So. And lots of interaction. We're throwing a football around the room. We're practicing, how to overcome those objections or how to get those voicemails returned. We got some party horns. It sounds really hokey, and at first we get some eyes rolling.
Yeah,
but
you get some senior salespeople.
Oh, are you kidding me? Really?
Come on, are you
I have
serious?
to blow a horn, and by the end of the day, they're toot toot. Every time they get an appointment, they're excited, and so and with the prizes, and there's that competitive spirit, and we've
Right.
got an online tool to track the results. So there's lots, and it makes the day go really fast. I mean, you sit down at 8 a.m. to start the training. Next thing you know, it's 4:00, and you've got 5 or 6 new appointments with customers where you couldn't get arrested before. And
Right.
so yeah, it's a lot of fun.
So what makes your training different?
I think it's the application of the techniques the same day. So often to call what we do sales training really underestimates what it is.
I've tried to figure out what to call some of these kind of things, because it's not really training, because really the training's only a short piece of
That's
it.
part of it, right.
But then they go do it.
Yeah, so it's really, the way that I would like to describe this is it's a transformational prospecting workshop where the 2 hours of it is training, gatekeepers, objections, voicemail, and we work on opening scripts. But the rest of the day, the reps are putting that into practice. They're calling real prospects. They're setting up real appointments. They're finding actual business. So it's more likely to stick with them versus when you go to a sales training event or a seminar and maybe they learn some material and you don't know if they're ever going to use it again, and they get their notebook and it goes up on a shelf and it
Right.
collects dust. With us, you're doing it the same day. We're tracking the results in real time. We give a report back to the client, and then they can track their return on investment. And it's often 40 times what they paid for us to come in.
Right. Right. And it's something that they can then continue on
Right.
and do on a regular basis.
Yes.
So you mentioned a couple things that a lot of salespeople, one, they're afraid to do the cold calls in the first place.
Yeah.
So this makes it fun and gets them to do it and encourages them to do it. Also, there's a whole thing around getting past the gatekeeper. Mm-hmm. So what are a couple of little techniques maybe you could share about gatekeepers or objections, or just some little tip you could give?
So, and really this works for anybody who's an entrepreneur. I mean,
Right.
you're
If you have your own business, you're selling.
you got to do this. Right. So a couple tips around gatekeepers. Call before 8 a.m. and after 5 p.m. because gatekeepers are gone. Decision makers are typically in the office, and so they will often answer the phone, and you've got them directly without having to go through a gatekeeper. So that's one idea. The other is when the gatekeeper answers the phone, instead of asking for, the quote unquote buyer that you're looking for, you ask for the sales department, or you ask for HR. Or accounting, or the help desk, because if they know you're a salesperson, you're going to get screened. That's the gatekeeper's job, is to not let you in.
Yeah.
You are not getting in here. But if you call and you ask for sales, of course they're going to transfer you to sales. They're not going to say, "What's this about?" They'll transfer you to sales. And then the reason I like being transferred to sales is that they're really helpful. Then you ask the salesperson, "This is who I am. This is what I do. Who should I talk to in your company?" And the salespeople will likely transfer you.
Right.
And now the decision maker sees a call coming in. It's not from the front desk.
It's
from inside the organization, so they'll take the call.
Interesting. So that was call before 8
and after 5.
and after 5. Okay. So that's actually good advice, because then if you're trying to balance your time, you can use between 9 o'clock, say, and 4 o'clock to make your actual follow-up calls or meetings or confirmations and stuff. Okay.
Exactly.
Okay. And it's funny, they're called gatekeepers for a reason.
Yes.
Right? Just visually think of a gate.
A gate.
And you're trying to get through that gate. And so if you ask for sales or HR, I love the idea that now the call looks like it's coming internal and you've got a more of a friendly way of dealing with it.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Good.
Yeah.
So what do you do? So typical objections when you do get through to the business decision maker, and they say, I don't have time, I don't have the money.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't have time, or I'm too busy. Usually a great response is to say, great, I don't want to take your time now. What I'd like to do is schedule a half-hour call next Tuesday at 2:15. How does that work for you?
Yeah, and you always ask for, you don't say what time works for you.
No.
You say Tuesday at 2:15.
Very specific. And, some salespeople have been trained to say, how's Tuesday morning or Thursday afternoon? That's better than leaving it totally open, but that's still not perfect. What you want to do is say, how's Tuesday at 2:15? The more specific, the better. 2:15 is going to get their attention.
Because it's not 2 or 2:30.
Exactly. Who asks for 2:15? Unless you've been through a BlitzMasters course. Who asks for 2:15? So it sort of implies it's going to be a short meeting.
Right.
So they're more likely to take it. It also implies you're busy. You're like a doctor. You have to do appointments every 15 minutes. So it also makes it easier for the prospect to look at their calendar Tuesday at 2:15. If that doesn't work for them, now the conversation is when you should meet, not if you should meet. It just becomes, well, actually Tuesday at 2:15 doesn't work for me. Then you could say, okay, what's better for you? But you want to be the person that throws out the first time.
Right.
Because you're in control of your schedule.
Right. Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, we're going to take a quick commercial break. And when we come back, we're going to continue talking with Andrea about BlitzMasters, an amazing program, and it gets the results that you're looking for. So take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
When it comes to pioneers in their respective industries, we all know the Apples, Starbucks, and Trader Joe's of the world. In the realm of recruiting, Decision Toolbox is the industry's best-kept secret, with 90% of their business from referrals and repeat customers. For over 20 years, Decision Toolbox's U.S.-based team of recruiters, sourcers, professional writers, quality personnel, and tech support has perfected a Six Sigma approach to talent management. No matter the size of the project, Decision Toolbox delivers incredible results. A cost per hire less than half of what contingency firms charge, with the winning candidate presented in an average of 14 days, all with a 12-month candidate warranty. With results like that, Decision Toolbox won't be a secret for long. Visit us at www.dtoolbox.com for more information.
Back to Patty and her guest.
Yeah, I'm here with Andrea. She's founder, president, and chief BlitzMaster. Her company's called BlitzMasters with an S. So who's your ideal client?
We do a lot in the channels. So with the IT channel, folks like HP, Oracle, Cisco, some of the big IT channels, and what I mean by channel for those who aren't in the channel, you have a company like HP who goes to market through partners,
right?
And those partners are VARs, value-added resellers, who sell HP products and services to an end user. And the reason that this has worked so well in this channel sort of environment is that these large IT companies have something called MDF, Market Development Funds, that they give to their partners on a quarterly basis. And often the partners have to spend it or lose it type of a thing.
Right.
And what these IT vendors are looking for is a good return on the investment of those market development funds. And so what they found with BlitzMasters is that they are able to get that ROI. They're able to track it, unlike other events like golf tournaments and happy hours and other sort of marketing where you don't really know.
You don't know
what you're getting, in terms of revenue. So that has been great. And by nature of the channel, I've been able to create what I call ambassadors, or champions that will, they're partner business managers that will say, hey, this is a great way for my partners to spend their market development funds. And so those partner business managers will go to their partners and say, I'd like to recommend BlitzMasters, as something that we do this quarter with your MDF. So it's almost like having my own free sales force. Those folks are out there, but it's great for them, makes them look good to the partner, helps them hit their number, helps the partner hit their number. It's just sort of a win-win for everybody.
Yeah, because in sales, it really is a numbers game.
Yes.
Right? You're trying to get a certain number, you're trying to get a pipeline of a certain number, and you're trying to get a return on your investment,
right?
Which is a number, right?
Yes.
So you're trying to find a way to do that, and it's a way to actually show value versus sending them to some other kind of training where you hope they use the skills like we talked about.
Right.
So you have a couple different kinds of BlitzMasters. You started out traditionally with the in-person classroom experience. You can describe that a little bit, but now you've actually moved to a new platform as well.
Yeah. So the Blitz experience is sort of what kicked it all off 15 years ago when I started the business, and that's a full day on-site, more traditional classroom type of setting with the training and for 2 hours and then actually 4 hours of dialing with the BlitzMaster on-site that circulates and coaches and so on, and we track those results. And then several years ago, one of my clients came to me and said, we have some partners that we would like to run through, BlitzMasters, but they don't have enough MDF to cover the full day on-site. Could you do something virtually?
Right.
And so it was a customer that came to me and said, will you create this program? And I said, sure, why not? So we basically just said, it's the same content. We'll just deliver it in a half-day format over the web, and we'll do sort of a 90-minute training sort of webinar presentation. Then there's a 2-hour dialing session, so they still go and dial. We still track the results.
Right.
They come back in for a half hour and do a wrap-up. So we call that the Blitz 2.0, and that's for one company or one partner at a time. And then the one of the best things that I did was create the National Blitz, because it used to be that we could only work with one company at a time,
right?
Because we didn't have the technology to work with multiple companies. And then I had a web developer create an online tracking tool, and now all of a sudden it was like, oh my gosh, we could have literally dozens of companies, thousands of people, all blitzing at the same time all across the country. So that created the National Blitz. And so we've got clients that use that on a quarterly basis, and they'll have literally hundreds of people that are all, dialing into the webinar to get that 90 minutes of sales skills training. Then they'll go dial for 3 hours, and each partner gets their own dashboard so they can kind of track those results. Then they'll come back in for a 30 minute. That's a long program.
That's a long program.
That's a long 30-minute wrap up, and so that's something some of our vendor clients will do as a way to go to market with multiple partners all at the same time. Great way to build a lot of pipeline with a lot of different partners, a lot of different companies.
And like you said, some companies do that on a quarterly basis. They may have new people, or people kind of lose the motivation, so it's kind of a jump start. I know in the old days when we used to do some sales stuff, we would also have people on the phone. We'd make it fun. We'd have pizza.
Yeah.
We'd have bells to ring when somebody got an appointment. So you make it fun and interesting. But what's really great is that you apply it immediately.
Right.
So you're immediately able to get successes or have people talk about their challenges.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. And it's team building, and folks, everybody learns from everybody else. And, we always have those veterans that think they're all that in a bag of chips and have nothing new to learn, and they're looking at their watch and they're rolling their eyes. And then next thing you know, they're embracing it, they're leaning forward, and our BlitzMasters are really good at empowering those veteran reps as leaders for the day to say, hey, we recognize you have a lot of experience. What do you think about, gatekeepers? How would you handle this objection? And then now you're bringing them into that conversation, and it really makes for a great team building type of event.
I remember I was doing a sales training for a technology company, large technology company, and the reps were from all over. So they were going to take their inside customer service people and train them to be salespeople.
Okay.
So they sent them to this 3-day sales course that we were doing for like 250 people in all different rooms. But I remember this one guy I'll never forget. And he was a veteran. And we said brainstorming. Let's brainstorm the worst objections you've ever had, right? And this veteran out of New York said he walked into a store and the owner of the shop said, "I don't like you. Get out of my store. I have a gun."
Oh. We don't have a flashcard for that. I don't know how you handle that objection. You just turn around and go the other way.
You just turn around and go the other way and go to the next door, because that's the other thing is you always just need to keep going and keep going and keep going.
Yeah.
So what are some of the policies and procedures as a small business owner that you've put in place that maybe somebody who owns their own business or is thinking about their own business should really think about seriously before they take that leap or they're looking to improve their business?
Yeah, I had to kind of learn the hard way, and it depends on the business model. But for me, one of the things that I learned early on, I had a Blitz schedule. This was back in the day when I did Blitzes myself, before I had BlitzMasters that were doing the program. So I had a Blitz set up in, I think it was in Kent, Washington. And literally the night before, the guy emails and cancels. And meanwhile, I've held that date on my calendar. That's like inventory. That's all I have to sell is the date on the calendar. It's like the way airlines work. They have a seat on a plane, and you pay for that in advance if you want them to hold that seat. Well, I hadn't figured out the whole payment up front thing yet. This is how I learned that.
Right.
And he ended up, they did it another day, so I didn't lose the account altogether. But that was a day out of my inventory that I could have sold to someone else, and I lost that. So what I recommend is if there's any way you can get, if not payment in full, at least partial payment up front, it really helps to hold the feet to the fire, if you will. So the client then has some skin in the game. It's harder for them to walk away. So I recommend getting the payment up front. For us, it's paying for a date on the calendar. It means we're not going to sell that date to anyone else. And then also I implemented rescheduling fees and cancellation fees.
Right.
So those are all the things that can happen that can really mess up your schedule. And and then what's nice about having some of those policies is that you can decide if you want to waive that. Like, so for some of our bigger customers, if they reschedule, we might say, well, normally we charge a $1,000 fee for that, but because you're such a great customer, we're going to waive it this time. So you get some goodwill, and
right.
They realize, okay, there's you really value our business. And so that's a lot of it is the payment structure, figuring that out. And if there's a way, you got to figure out what it is that you can sell to get that deposit or get that payment up front.
Yeah, so you ask, typically some people may ask for 50% up front. If you can get it all, that's great. But definitely have those cancellation policies. So saying if you cancel the date or if you reschedule, there's a certain cost to that.
Yeah, and maybe you even offer a discount for payment in full up front.
Right.
Give them incentivize them, or to do that up front.
Yeah.
And they're going to save a little money.
Yeah.
To do it that way.
Yeah. So what are some of the gotchas you've learned along the way?
Well, that one that I just described with the whole canceling the day before was tough. And sometimes I'll say, as a woman, getting on my soapbox, sometimes, and you can never say this to customers when you're dealing with a man, but sometimes you get into these, like I've had to find myself defending my policies of payment up front and rescheduling and cancellation. And it's even happened where somebody signed a contract that very clearly outlines our policy. Right. And then they'll email and say, well, okay, we're ready to pick our date. And I say, well, yeah, as soon as I get your payment, we'll go ahead and get that date on the payment. Well, what do you mean? We haven't done anything yet. What do you mean payment up front? I'm like, well, it's 3B on the contract that you signed, And then you have to you get into this kind of argument about having to now justify. It's like, you signed it. And so when a man's doing that, I always want to say, if I were a man, would we be having this conversation? I don't ever go there, but there's this part of me that just thinks that, And,
it's that thought bubble over your head that you hope never comes out of your mouth.
Yes.
It truly is that thought bubble.
Yeah, and my husband is so good at times when I'm, like an email will come in and I'm having to have this conversation, and he'll be like, okay, you don't need to defend this. This is what the contract says. This is what they agreed to. Because I find myself like, well, this is why we do this, because this is what could happen. So then we have to do it this way. And he's like, no, you don't have to do that. Here's the agreement. This is what you signed. And those are the rules of the game.
Yeah. We've had several attorneys on the that have been on the show. Different attorneys looking at different things, and that's always read the contract, read the contract, read the contract. Yeah. Before you sign it.
It's not friendness. It's business.
Say that again.
It's not friendness.
It's business.
It's business. And as women, we are so concerned about being liked that we will forfeit everything else because we just want people to like us. And you have to really just kind of stand up for yourself to be able to have that confidence and enforce the contract. And one of the other things that I found, and this was a lesson that I was happy to learn, is that a lot of times customers will ask for a better price, not necessarily because they expect it, but that's the game.
They're trained to do it.
They're trained to do that. That's what they have to do for their company. They have to get the best price. But just because you say no doesn't mean they're not going to do business with you. And
Okay.
in fact, I've had people come back and say, I really respect you for that. I had to ask for a discount. Everybody always wants to feel like they're getting something.
Right.
But what I always come back with is saying, the value of what we provide is there. We feel like this is a fair price, and we'd really like to have your business. But if I'm going to discount, what does that mean? You don't want the books ahead of time?
Right.
You don't want the tracking tool? Because clearly you don't want me to drop the price and give you all the same benefits, right?
Right. And and turn that around and say, now, if you were in my shoes, would you be
Right.
do you sell your products for free?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when
Is there
somebody-
a cost for your products? Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's a cost for my products.
Yeah, and I actually learned that lesson from a good friend of mine who's in real estate. She said that sometimes what happens with her is maybe a friend will come to her and say, "Oh, we'd love you to list our house, and you'll give me a break on your commission, right?" And she'll come back and say, "Well, okay, if you'd like to do that, then do you want me to not do flyers? Do you want me to not put it on the MLS? What part of my service do you not want?
Do you not want to have an open house?
Yes." Because that's what's funny is when customers, they want a better price, but they still want all the same benefits. It's like, well, no, that's not really how it works.
Yeah, and if you really turn it around to them and say, when you're in my shoes and you're talking to somebody about your price, do you necessarily automatically drop your price, or do you take things off the table? And so
Yeah.
just think, like that person that you're dealing with. And customers, especially like a procurement department or a sales department, they're trained to ask for that discount.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we're going to sales and negotiation schools. They're going to supplier school,
Right.
basically.
Yes.
And they need to be able to sometimes report to their manager, oh, yeah, well, it's usually cost the X,
Yeah.
but I got it for Y.
Right.
So then we really should do this because this is really a good deal.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing you can do is also say, I'll give you that price in exchange for your commitment of X amount of work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Say more.
Yeah. So instead of, if you want to buy 10 blitzes at that price that you've just given me, we'll do that. And oh, by the way, you're going to pay for all 10 of them up front. Then happy to honor this, this lesser price. But if you're going to order one, then that's the price.
Right.
And here's the value, and this is why we charge what we do. And oh, by the way, here are the customers that we've worked with, and you've got those testimonials and case studies and all that.
Yeah. So collect those testimonials and case studies as well. So get quotes from people when you've done a good service for someone.
Yes.
Ask them if they'd be willing to write something. If not, sometimes what you can do is say, would you mind if I wrote something and sent it to you, and
Yes.
you edit it and send it back so it's in your own words. So
Right.
you want to collect those testimonials, those kind of things, so you can use those for your future marketing.
That's huge.
Yeah. So as a business owner, what's the difference between selling your time and selling your value?
So I think a lot of folks, especially who are in consulting, they think about selling their time. Maybe they have an hourly rate. And the sort of, danger, the thing you have to look out for with that is that, there's only so much time in the day. So you really limit yourself in terms of income.
Right.
So it's better if you can sell sort of a scope of work or a package and say, here's the price or the investment. We don't call it cost, we say investment of this particular package. And the value is all about, that again, that outcome that it's going to create for the customer. And there's a couple fun analogies. So one is, it's like when the electrician, comes over. You've had your lights are out or something's happened with, the electricity in the house. And the electrician comes over. It takes him 5 minutes. And he goes, that'll be $500, please. And you're like, what are you talking about? It took you 5 minutes. Well, yeah, but it took me 20 years of, studying and learning and becoming an electrician so that I could solve your problem in 5 minutes. That's what you're paying for. Or like in the movie Pretty Woman, when Richard Gere is lost, when I think he's near Beverly Hills, but he's in kind of a bad part of town, and he pulls over and he sees Julia Roberts and asks for directions, and she's going to charge him $20. And he says, you can't charge me $20 for directions. And she goes, I can do anything I want. I ain't lost. So it's like, that's the value. He wanted to get out of that bad neighborhood, so he was willing to pay the $20. So, that's what we sell is definitely a value sale. In fact, the other day I had a customer. We charged $5,500 for our Blitz 2.0 program, our half-day virtual program. And so at the end of the call, this guy says, okay, let me get this straight. There's 90 minutes of training in a webinar, and then my reps go call for 2 hours, and then they come back for 30 minutes, and that's $5,500? I go, yes, it is. And the reason is that it's taken me 25 years to develop a program that can be delivered in half a day that's going to get you 40 to 1 on your investment. That's why it's $5,500.
Right.
Oh, okay. Yeah. He's since become a customer.
Well, yeah, and sometimes what I've done too as well is when somebody says, oh my gosh, that price is too high, a lot of times I'll break it down by per person.
Yes, there you go.
So instead of saying it's going to cost you $10,000, for example, it's only going to cost you $133 per person.
Right.
Is that worth the investment to you?
Yes.
Is that investment worth it to your people?
Right.
Yeah. And because of what you do and you measure and track the results, you can literally say there's a measurable, tangible.
Right.
At the end of the session, you're going to have a 40 to 1 ROI versus what you paid for me and new opportunities.
Right.
And you've got better trained reps.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those are fun.
Yeah.
I love those kind of objections, and I've had to get my objection handling has gotten better as I've gotten older, because when you're a business owner, you do tend to take things really personally. It kind of hurts your feelings,
They don't like me.
That's what it is. They don't like me. They don't think I'm worth $5,500 for this, program, and so you want to get defensive, and so I've just had to kind of come up with the diplomatic way of sort of explaining that this is the value that you're getting. It's not about the time. It's not about the half day that it takes to deliver it. It's about all of the years of experience in writing the book, in coming up with the techniques, and giving you a way to apply them the same day and track them and actually get some tangible revenue from it. That's the value that you're paying for, not the time that it took me to deliver it.
Right, and you're giving people tools, so you're giving them flashcards or different things they can use that they can use when they're on their own, when they're not in a BlitzMaster session.
Right.
They can simply get in a situation where they've got a little flashcard that says when the customer says your price is too high,
Yes.
how do you respond? Right, and some different ways of doing that.
Right.
Good. So as a woman business owner, what's maybe some of the funniest things that you've come across or had to overcome?
Well, I've had to, so there's a couple examples. One was I had a Fortune 500 client, and my contact was a woman that was about my age. And I'm not kidding. Every time we would get on the phone, she'd read me her resume. She would tell me about all the awards that she'd won. And it was like she was competing with me. And I think part of it is that she knew the amount of money her company was spending with me. And she thought, well...
Was she looking for a job?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, but it was very combative. It was just... I just felt like every time we got on the phone, I did something wrong. We'd have a call with a partner, and then she would call me afterwards and yell at me because the partner asked a question that I answered, and she was supposed to answer it.
And you were supposed to know that,
and
right?
I was supposed to know that somehow. Even though the question was about BlitzMasters, somehow she was supposed to answer it instead of me. And so I've just about had it. I'm like, oh, this just isn't worth it. And my husband says, this is a great client. I think you need to give this to Carl, and why don't you just have him manage it? I'm like, oh my gosh, brilliant, because it was clearly a personality thing.
It was woman versus woman.
Yes, woman versus woman, very competitive. And so Carl takes over the account, and boom, it's magic. Not only did we continue to work with them, but then he grew the account, and so that was how I solved that one. And then I had another customer that was a man about my age that, and he was one where, he signed the contract and then had his knickers in a twist that, he wanted a date. And I thought, well, gosh, you haven't paid yet. As soon as what do you mean? So that was one where I had to really sort of defend, the policy. And he was also very combative, and he would get, it was like I was supposed to read his mind, because we would have these debrief calls, after his blitzes. And he would say, well, your BlitzMaster should have done this or should have done that. And I'd say, oh, well, were you on the ducks in a row call that we have beforehand so that you could talk about, oh, no, I didn't have time to do that. Okay, well, that's where that conversation happens, is beforehand. And he was irritated that the BlitzMaster wasn't able to read his mind, and even though he didn't want to be on the call to have that conversation. So sometimes when you get customers like that, you just decide, it's not a good fit. It's too much negative energy, or you just double your price. Yeah. And say, this is what it's going to take for me to put up with a customer like that. If he wants to do this at 25 grand, I'll take your money. But you're not going to get the same great price everybody else gets.
Yeah, I've had situations where it just wasn't a good fit, or even I was called in to do a proposal for a big contract with a major company here in Orange County, California, and I kept asking the question consistently of the leaders, what will you do to change to enable the people who are trained to do the skills they've learned, kind of like that ducks in a row call. They weren't going to do anything. So I actually said, after asking the same question 3 or 4 times, not getting an answer, I finally said, well, I appreciate your time. Thank you for inviting me to this big proposal meeting. I'm not your consultant. If you'd like to speak to somebody, I can sure give you somebody who will take your money. And I left.
Wow.
And they called me back and they said, I can't believe you did that.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad I didn't, because it was such a culture mismatch, values mismatch. They would have hired me. I would have done the training. The people would feel good for a few days, and then it'd go back to worse than ever.
Right.
Because now they're knowledgeable and ticked. Before they were just ticked.
Exactly. Well, and I had something similar with vendor clients that will come and say, okay, we want to sponsor a Blitz for XYZ partner, and I'll get on the phone with the sales manager of the partner, and the sales manager's not bought in. They're really resisting it, and then I'll have to go back to the vendor and say, you know what, don't waste your money on this partner. They're not bought in. You're not going to get a good result. Let's go find somebody else who appreciates what you're doing for them. And they always seem surprised. They're like, well, I was going to pay you to do that. It was like, no, because I know that when there's that much resistance and when they're not going to get on board, that it's not going to be a good result for you or for me. So let's just go find another partner that gets it, that appreciates the investment you're making. And and clients appreciate that. They appreciate the honesty, I think.
Yeah, being honest. So we've only got a couple minutes left. So I just wanted to, based on your experience, you were in sales, you were a sales manager, you've run your own successful business for how many years for BlitzMasters?
15.
Okay, I was going to say 12, because we've known each other for quite a while.
Yeah.
What advice would you have for women that really want to go kick some glass?
Just to really have that confidence. Don't be afraid to ask for exactly what you want. Don't apologize for what you want. Charge double what you think you're worth. I mean, I cannot stress that enough. Women consistently charge way less than they should. They devalue themselves for whatever reason. So I want you to pick a number in your head for what you think your services are worth. I literally want you to double it, and then I want you to go out and that's your price. That's what you ask for, and you don't apologize. Don't apologize for your policies, for your programs, your price, the way that you do things, your methodology. It's good enough. It's probably going to be fantastic.
Yeah. I think a lot of us grew up with the idea that we're not good enough.
Yes.
I remember always wanting to do something better than a boy or better than somebody else and not being good enough. And so we have to get over that not good enough syndrome.
Yes.
Or that we're not perfect.
Yes. And worrying about being liked. I mean, we all want to be liked, but at the end of the day, this is business, and you got to pay the bills, and you got to do what you got to do.
So you said something very insightful before. You said it's business, not friendness. Not friendness. It's business, not friendness. So that's a good way to think about that. Well, you've been a great guest. So how can people get in touch with you if they want to meet you or schedule a BlitzMasters or have one of your folks come in and do a BlitzMaster 2.0? How can people get in touch with you?
They can simply go to BlitzMasters.com. That's BlitzMasters with an S at the end. And go from there. We've got some fun videos and contact information, and we'd love to hear from you. And
you can still see some of the videos on YouTube, right? On the Coaching Coffee?
Yeah, so it's it's youtube.com/Andrea Sittig-Rolf. But the coffee coaching videos are part of that, part of my channel. And those are just some quick 2- and 3-minute sales tips. There's over 40 of them.
And you've got a newsletter that comes out on a regular basis with sales tips, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So lots of great tools out there. Andrea, you've been a wonderful guest. It's great to see you and Brian, who's actually in the room with us today. So it's great to see the two of you. You split your time between Washington and Palm Springs, depending on weather. So they're those
rainbirds,
not snowbirds. Although this year in Seattle, it's been
It has been snowy. Yeah, we like rainbirds because that's what we're getting away from. We're typically getting away from rain, not snow.
Yeah,
so,
yeah. Well, thanks for being here. It's great having you on the show. And I just want to remind the audience, this is Patty Grimm with Women Kicking Glass. Please email me. It's pattygrimm@live.com. It's PATTIEGRIMM@live.com. You can reach out to me to either find Andrea if you can't find BlitzMasters. You can reach out to me if you would like to be a guest on the show. If you have a topic for the show, this is the only show we know of that's in Orange County and probably in California that's by women, for women, and about issues they care about. And also, if you want to book either one of us as a speaker, you can contact us as well. So thanks, and have a great day, and let's go kick some glass.
Thanks for listening to Women Kicking Glass, the only radio show on OC Talk Radio dedicated to empowering women to be the best they can be. Listen each week or download the podcast at patty.grimm.podbean.com. To reach out to Patty to schedule a speech webinar or to learn more about her leadership and team training, contact Patty at pattygrimm@live.com. For more information about her company and her books. Have a kicking day.